Quitting pornography to me always felt like a damn battle, especially with Nofap. At max, I only ever got to 3 months on it, and it was much like Sisyphus, wherein I just climbed and then I fell down again and again and again, except I was not happy. It was the cycle of doom, and the only way I could think of breaking it was to go on another method. So I found another method, and instead of 3 months, I lasted 4.5. I was very happy with these results, right? And so I went to a server to share these with, and as soon as I mentioned it, I didn't even send the link or whatever, I mentioned the name, I got banned. I thought, okay, that's one close minded community, so maybe I should go to another. I went to another server, I told them about it, and then I also proceeded to get banned. What does that mean? This isn't really as weird as you think it is, because this has happened many times before. In the 90s, another alternative addiction quitting model was set up. It was called the freedom model, and people from Alcoholic Anonymous threatened to sue them if they set it up. Was it because they cared about their clients? Was it because they cared about people and they thought that they were going to die and suffer from this alternative method? Was it because they genuinely cared about the truth? Or was it because their clients were going to get stolen? The same is with Nofap. It's quite funny. I wouldn't even thought much about this if not for a YouTuber I watched getting trademark striked because he used the word Nofap in a Skillshare course. The word Nofap is trademarked. It isn't for your benefit, but it's a brand which cares about itself, a brand which cares about profit. So why do you think that it's out to help you? Again, I can't emphasize the circle of doom enough. It's this very tragic cycle of you giving the porn companies money by, let's say, OnlyFans, or watching the videos on their website and looking at the adverts and whatnot, and then being disappointed with yourself, arguably hating yourself, and then going to the people who tell you that, okay, I can help you quit, and then they proceed to get your email for the free booklet or whatever you got, which doesn't even work, and they sell that to advertisers. And then you're disappointed because the free booklet doesn't work, and then you buy their course, and then that even doesn't work, and then you think you are the limiting problem when in fact you are not. Your beliefs are, and the fact that you think nofap will work is. So you can get out of it, but you first need to understand that nofap doesn't work. There are 1.2 million people on r/nofap. They have joined it. Let's say that 300,000 of them are not there for their own addictions, but instead for, let's say, someone else's addiction, because they work in the industry, because they, let's say, want to understand more about it, or they like to lurk and whatnot. That still doesn't take away from the fact that there are then 700,000 plus people who are suffering with addiction. That's more than populations of some countries. So why should you trust me? Well, hi, I'm Vansh, and I have been free for 1.5 years after an addiction of 9 years, nearly 50% of my life. And I went from this guy who used pornography as a reason to not talk to women, to not work out, to just stick to this identity that I'm a loser, to instead someone who started working out, someone who started getting girls and whatnot, right? So you can easily do this, and it's not just a one-time thing. I have helped other people do this too. For example, Ben was my client from UK, and I helped him with pornography during his A-level exams, and he went on to get excellent marks. He went on to get A stars or 9s or however else they measure marks and whatnot, but he got very good marks during the time that he was quitting pornography. So pornography, quitting it, like the process of quitting it, doesn't need to be harmful. It can actually be very fun if you take the right approach, which isn't just this knuckle dragging approach of just trying to hit it and hit it and hit it until your arms give away. And the same is with Rehan. Rehan was a very shy kid when I met him, and with my help, with my coaching and whatnot, he went on to grow out of his shell. He went on to quit pornography. He went on to talk to other girls, and all of this could happen because I got rid of the self-limiting beliefs in his mind, and I can do that for you too. So, what are these self-limiting beliefs? Self-limiting beliefs are a mixture of internal beliefs, let's say you hold about yourself, and external beliefs about something foreign to you, like concepts like willpower or lust and whatnot, which you have self-limiting beliefs or arguably brainwashings about, or the general culture in which you're surrounded in. So look at the culture that we and a lot of people, our younger siblings and whatnot, are born in, and you will see that it's this culture of consumerism, it's this culture of promoting mediocrity, of promoting fatness, unhealthiness, etc., of just caring about live, laugh, love, and not purpose, not caring about helping humanity, not caring about the community and whatnot. And as a result, when you are like hyper individualist, when you are just a consumer, then there's not a lot to live for, right? And so all people try to do is just cover their emptiness with shows, with food, with pornography, and that is partially the reason why pornography doesn't work. You want water, you want some level of companionship. This is salt water, you drink it, you will be even more thirsty, so it of course doesn't work. And the thing is that society, your culture, parents, etc., are all obsessed with these things like consumerism, passiveness, comfort, and they aren't necessarily evil, but they are mediocre, and you will end up like them if you follow them. So what you need to do is identify these self-limiting beliefs, whether it's about porn, whether it's about addiction. Let's say you watched a movie and you thought that addiction was this thing which only happened to artists or only happened to people who have a lot of potential and whatnot, and that they continuously need to suffer or something to get that. That's just bullshit. You can be a very happy artist, you can be a very happy individual in general, and still give value to humanity. So what this is also caused by is the people, the on Nofap, on doctors and whatnot, who give you false advice about prostate cancer being cured by masturbating, which was based on a damn survey, not an actual study. So the evidence regarding it is questionable at best, and you shouldn't be trusting it. It's the same is with many beliefs that you have about Nofap. If you see the advice on Nofap and the way they treat their community, the almost cult-like atmosphere there is, you will see that they call themselves Fapstronaut. You will see how obsessive they are with 17 days of zero porn, 18 days of zero porn, or day 106 semen retained, blah blah blah, or something else like that. And it's so obsessive that it becomes their whole identity. Instead of being a porn user, they're becoming someone who struggles against it. They're becoming someone who just continuously fights against it, not someone who is trying to be or who is free. And that's the reason why I don't like it. Like I said, there's 1.2 million people there, and let's say that 30% or something is there for someone else, is there for just lurking, is there for out of curiosity, and not because they have a pornography addiction. That still doesn't take away that there are almost 700,000 plus 900,000, I believe, people who are struggling with Nofap. So why should you listen to the advice when the majority of the people are just struggling with it continuously? The thing about r/nofap is that it's the first way that people find out about why pornography is bad, and that is overall good. But the way that they go about it, the way that most of the community is made up of people who are continuously suffering, who have not addressed their self-limiting beliefs and whatnot, makes the advice on it very shit. The thing is that for most people, r/nofap is the first introduction to quitting pornography. So most of the beliefs, most of the things that they tell them, they just end up believing, right? And so this could be false beliefs about willpower, about lust, about how your emotions are meant to work, or something else like that. Or this could be some about how it should make you feel, and that causes expectancy bias, which is a whole different ball game. And basically, let's say that you have a belief that you can run 100 steps more and after that you will fall. That's what another person, an authority figure, says to you. So you end up believing that, and so you end up placeboing it, and so you end up feeling it when you could have ran 1,000 steps, right? And so that's what happens with the advice on Nofap, because there's so many biases, there's so many things, so many people who have their own faults, who have their own experiences, and they all just flood together to the point that none of the advice together makes sense. But the general patterns that you see are use willpower, use blockers, and pray to God. And that doesn't work, because this is a mortal problem. This isn't a problem of willpower, this is a problem of behavior, this is a problem of emotions, right? That's why you use it. You use it because, let's say, sometimes you feel like a loser. You use it because you're lonely. You use it because you're sad, or because you feel powerless against something else. So you will try to go on something that you feel some level of control in, right? And so that's why the majority of the cases of Nofap aren't about lust, aren't about neurology, but about emotional needs being unaddressed. The thing with the advice on r/Nofap and Alcoholic Anonymous is that they simultaneously tell you that if a person failed, let's say if a person overdosed on alcohol, or if a person just went full gooner to the point that they pull out a red or whatever, they say that they simply didn't want freedom enough, right? At the same time, they say that you will not succeed because you have this addictive gene, because you have delta force B changing your brain, because you have bad neuroplasticity, blah blah blah. And they continuously tell you all the reasons why you will fail. For example, like let's say at day 30, bro, it's so hard. After that, the difficulty just gets exponentially worse. And because you end up believing all this, you end up failing, right? So let me tell you how willpower actually works. The thing is that what most people believe is that willpower starts easy, right? The first day one, day zero, or whatever starts easy, and then day five it's mildly difficult, and then when you're at like day 20 or day 30 or whatnot, it just gets harder and harder and harder, like a stair which turns into a climb, right? And so this is false. This isn't really how it works. This isn't how willpower or anything inside of your brain works. What it actually is you having self-limiting beliefs about it. So let's say that you're sad, right? You will think that it will be very hard to resist pornography because you're sad. But if someone says, oh, you're sad, take some cocaine, you will resist it because you will think, what the fuck is wrong with you? I don't take cocaine. That's crazy. I will get a nosebleed. My brain will die, blah, 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 something else like that. And so, of course, you don't take cocaine. Why? Because cocaine is a learned behavior, much like pornography is. You learned that pornography is something good. You learned that pornography is something that can take away your pain, and hence you use it. If you didn't believe that, you wouldn't be using it in the first place. So I need no willpower because I've unlearned the beliefs, the 9 years of beliefs, and I've been free for 1.5 years because I think like a normal person, like a person who is free, and I don't need it, right? And so the thing with willpower, the way that most people use willpower, this method of fighting, of constantly struggling against it, it makes for a great movie. It doesn't make for a very good life because look at this. Your willpower was had a limit, right? You could go to 40 points of willpower, and after that you would relapse on that and whatnot, right? So you start at day one. Day one's going pretty well, and oh no, you reach 40 points at day two. So you work out or do anything else like that, and hence your willpower limit proceeds to 50 points, right? And when you do that, you start at day three, and you last a little bit longer. But the problem still isn't solved because eventually you will not. And you can continuously increase this freaking arms game of reaching then 60 points, then 70 points, then 80 points, then 1000 points. But eventually you will not because you have the supposed limit of stress. And guess what? There will always be more problems, more reasons, more justifications to not to use that I'm overstressed and I can't handle this shit, hence I need to do something else. But the way willpower truly works isn't like this at all. The idea that willpower is limited comes from research all the way from the 1960s by Michael and Grusek, and this later became known as ego depletion, but this isn't true at all. So, replication attempts about ego depletion with over 2000 participants failed to find similar results. That ego isn't something limited, your willpower isn't something limited, but it's instead limited only by your thoughts, only by the way you think about willpower. And a meta analysis, which is basically taking all the research around this area, all the research around willpower and whatnot, and they found no solid evidence that ego depletion exists. The idea that your brain has this limited level of willpower and which continuously goes down and down and down, and then you rest and then you gain it back, is based on false beliefs. The ego depletion became popular for two reasons. The first is that a lot of the things that we interact with, whether it be food, water, people, etc., they eventually go away. They take some time to replenish and whatnot, and then we eat them, and then we have to go through this entire process of it being out of stock and then we putting it back into stock and whatnot. That is one reason, but our brain doesn't work like that, and we eventually found that out. The second reason is because it justified mediocrity. Newer studies like Job et al., all of their research shows that it's a placebo, which means what you believe about willpower limits how you function. If you limit beliefs, then you limit your actions. If you believe that you can only run 100 steps because, let's say, an authority figure told you, or you read it somewhere, or your parents or whatnot told you, then of course you will act like it. What I want you to do is not just accept these thoughts at surface level, at face belief, and instead interact with them, instead question them, instead, rather than thinking that I will fail 100 steps later, you just focus on this step. You just focus on running and running and running. Can I take one more step? Then you take one more step, and then you continue to do that, and you acknowledge these urges, interact with them, and then you figure out that you're not really out of willpower. You can run 1000 steps when the other person was telling you that you can run 100. And this isn't just something which is new science. People have been seeing this for a long time, like high performers like Goggins, you don't David Goggins, like Kobe, Ray Dalio, Tim Ferriss, Jocko, all created mindfulness as the foundation of real discipline. And so if you are more mindful, and this isn't just 5 minutes of meditation per day, but actually being mindful of your thoughts, actually seeing them for what they are, then that's real willpower, and that's way stronger than anything else that Nofap can give you. Hey, before we get further into the video, I want to make sure that you like and subscribe and comment, because it will help other people find the video and actually help them get towards freedom like you are doing so right now. There's also a course which is in pre-sale right now, so if you're interested in that, because the price will only continue to get higher, then there's the link in the description below. Now, another belief that many people have is that lust is something which increases with time, but that's not true at all. So if you look at these graphs, people think that lust works like a pressure tank. It works like an exponential graph. It just continues to increase and increase and increase, when it doesn't really work like that. It just increases for some time. Let's say you sleep. When you're sleeping, your body produces testosterone, or when it sees a pretty woman and whatnot, and then testosterone proceeds to decrease if you're not going to act on it, or it stabilizes roughly, right? And that's how testosterone works. So even if you don't nut, your sperm and testosterone will be reabsorbed. If they're left unused, the sperm has a cycle of roughly 3 months. If they're left unused, you will have no harmful accumulation. Your balls will get as big as like pine fruits or whatnot, and they will just be reabsorbed, right? So this build up is more about conditioning, is more about beliefs, it's more about the thing with willpower, wherein you believe that I have limited willpower and whatnot. I have this cumulative level of stress which continuously goes up, which isn't really true. And because you believed this stuff, you acted like it. This isn't biology, but it's neurology. So another thing is that the body also self-regulates. Even if you don't nut, the body, to maintain sexual health, to maintain the pipes and whatnot, do wet dreams. And even if it doesn't do wet dreams, the body will just reabsorb the sperm and the testosterone and whatnot. So you don't have any harm going towards you. So you don't really need to worry about this. Another belief that people have is that libido is caused by time. And yes, whilst it's shaped by hormones, like whether you have testosterone or neurotransmitters like dopamine, or your mood, whether it's good. If your dog died, I don't think you would want to masturbate much, right? And novelty or context and whatnot. There's so many factors going into it, that time isn't the only one that you need to worry about. Like sure, like at night or when you're in the morning, you will have more testosterone, more libido and whatnot, but that's just normal, right? That's something everybody deals with, and that doesn't mean that you have an addiction. So there's no direct correlation between time and increasing libido, and often people use any of these excuses. Sometimes people use high testosterone as an excuse to nut. Sometimes people use low testosterone as an excuse for fatigue or inaction or lack of motivation, to just continue to be a loser, for lack of better words. And they think, waha, I'm a loser, I can't do anything else, I'll just nut. I can't get a woman, so I'll just nut, blah blah blah. Apologies. People tell these narratives about themselves. People have these beliefs about themselves, and when they continue with these beliefs, like the one about willpower, I have limited willpower, I have low willpower, I can do this, I'm a little child, blah blah blah. So you're getting the point, right? And the same is with the supplement industry, where there was an incentive, because people were, especially men, were insecure about their testosterone and whatnot. People started saying that you should take this testosterone booster, you should take this or that. And then there was a lot of old misleading science which became common knowledge, even though it was based on false beliefs. So for example, Freud had this weird ass belief that everyone wants to frick their own mother, which, like, I'm not touching that one. And then there's Brinkley, who had this belief that you could increase your testosterone if you take goat testicles and put them into men's scrotums, for a lack of better words. So he had this little magic wand, as you can see, and he casted scrotus gotus, and then he put goat testicles into a man's scrotum. It didn't work. A man was left with one scrotus. It looked like a cyclops. And the same in China, where this guy was a great emperor. He was a great strategic mind. He had great economic policies. Everybody practically loved this emperor. I forgot the name of him, but he thought that mercury could give him immortality, and the mercury could cure his impotence. It didn't work, but that doesn't stop many people in China from taking mercury to get higher testosterone. That's why you actually need to look at the science. That's why you actually need to question these beliefs. You don't need to take beliefs at surface level. I'm sure that many of these people were very, very worried about these things, were very worried and desperate about fixing their testosterone, fixing their impotence and whatnot. But generally, what you will see is that when you just fix the basics, which I'm arguing that most people aren't doing, you will get good results. So this is just a quick thing. How do you actually fix testosterone? You focus on sleep, right? You get good sleep, you get a good night. So that doesn't mean a lot of sugar and a lot of drugs and whatnot, but instead you just take, let's say, a relatively lots of protein, some level of fats, some level of healthy fats like ghee or olive oil and whatnot, omega-3s for hormone production, because hormones require some level of fats. You train relatively well. So for example, squats or anything else like that. It's basically compound movements, because those increase testosterone, or then you could just train in general and that would still increase testosterone, and then you have some level of purpose in your life, right? Another thing I would say is like get some sun, get some vitamin D, some basic micronutrients like selenium, zinc, blah blah blah. Get some meat and eggs, which are more bioavailable sources of protein rather than plant proteins and whatnot. And that's all. So let's say that you had these beliefs about willpower and you had these beliefs about lust, right? So what you figure out is that willpower isn't actually helped by pornography, because you're quite literally decreasing the gray matter, which is the mindfulness thing required for memory production, required for concentration and whatnot. So you understand that willpower and lust aren't really benefited by pornography, because let's say that if you sedate your lust by using pornography, you will not be able to go towards actual women. So you realize that this isn't really that helpful, right? And the same with concentration. It decreases your gray matter, so it isn't helping your concentration. It gives you a short-term boost which lasts like 30 minutes, but it's not worth it, right? Something else like cold shower, something else like having a good diet, something else like training and then getting endorphins from working out and whatnot, they are far better. Stress relief. The reason and the way that most people use pornography is that they try to run away from the stress. They think that stress, the feeling of it, is the inherent problem rather than what's actually causing the stress, and then they hence try to solve the emotion rather than the reason that they're getting stressed in the first place. So something like the homework or a job assignment, you think that the stress I'm getting from thinking about it is the problem, when instead the problem is that you are not fixing the job assignment, that you are not addressing it, and hence that causes even more stress. So it's not really giving you stress relief, it's more like a temporary sedator. Education, just read a fucking book if you want to pleasure a woman or whatnot, right? And even then I'm betting that you're not watching that kind of pornography and whatnot, right? So porn is a friend. That is an emotional belief. So this is a self-limiting belief and an emotional one at that porn is a friend. So this goes something like, whenever I'm talking to people or something else like that, I have this anxiety that they will betray me. I have this anxiety that they will just get rid of me when they don't like me. And so porn is my only friend, because it helps me concentrate, it helps me give this, it helps me get that, blah blah blah. And it's the one thing which is a constant source of pleasure in my life. So you have this belief, this idiotic belief that porn is a friend, when in fact it is hurting you in all these ways. And you're not focusing on that, but you're just thinking porn is a friend. So is it really your friend, or is it just a toxic person who's using you? Journal about it, and then you will find out the truth. I bet you already know that. The same with it harms no one. It harms you, bro. You matter. So why the hell aren't you taking that into account? And even if you get into a relationship later on, this will undoubtedly cause problems. Same with I have low willpower. We just got rid of that, right? So there are roughly 3 ways that you can think about the thoughts in your brain. Like, this is called the triune brain model, which basically means that there's the logical alien brain, which has the history of a few tens of thousands of years. There's the mammalian brain, which has the history of a few million years. And then there's the reptilian or the primal brain, which is having a history of about tens of millions of years. And you can probably guess what they do. So this one cares about logic, this one cares about making sure that people have a good impression of you, this one cares more about the social aspect, and this one cares more about rest and digest, survive and thrive, blah blah blah, these things like that. So you can probably guess that. And now I'm going to ask you, which one are you dominantly? These are all parts of your brain, but which one are you? 1 second. I'm going to take a break. Until then, you think. So this is the trick question. You want any of them. You are instead the consciousness. You are the consciousness who is the observer. Let's say that there's a TV, right? And there's something going on in the TV. Perhaps sometimes it's this science show. Perhaps sometimes it's a show about emotions and drama. Sometimes it's a show about survival and whatnot, right? So you see that these are simply things on the TV. And you are the person with the remote controller. You can change the colors of the TV, you can change the channels, you can change the volume, etc. And you are not the show that is happening on the TV. And you need to realize that you are separate from the TV, you are separate from any drama, any thoughts happening on it. You need to understand that much like the heart beats or the stomach digests, your brain thinks, your brain makes thoughts. Thoughts are sometimes good, thoughts are sometimes bad. The point is that your brain just makes thoughts, and it's your decision, it's your responsibility, you as a consciousness, you as the one with the remote controller, to see what thoughts are stayed, what channels are stayed on, what kinds of colors do you actually like, how much volume is right, etc. And it's your choice, and you need to realize that sometimes people just identify too much with the TV, for lack of better words, but you need to realize that you are the one with the controller. You're not these hands, you are not these eyes, but instead you are the consciousness controlling them, consciousness controlling when you blink them, when you clasp the hand and whatnot, right? So it's your choice every time you continue to use pornography, because you see some sort of benefit in it. Why you see some sort of benefit in it is because of self-limiting beliefs. These self-limiting beliefs could be something about something logical, like let's say concentration or stress relief. It could be something else like an emotional belief, like it harms no one, or pornography is a friend. Or it could be a reptilian belief, like oh my god, so many women, I have a harem, wow. Or a lack of mindfulness about it, right? So you need to realize these things, and then you need to address them. How do you address them? You become more mindful. And this isn't just meditating like for hours and hours like this monk guy. You don't need to do that, but instead be mindful in the moment. Mindfulness means here that whenever you find yourself, your thoughts ruminating, whenever you find your thoughts thinking, oh, I need pornography, I cannot do anything without it, I will fail without it, blah blah blah, you realize that no, this is not really true. It's not that I need pornography, it's that I'm having thoughts that I need pornography based on self-limiting beliefs generally. So what are these self-limiting beliefs? Am I getting the thought that I have low willpower? Well, that's not true. Clearly, Vansh clearly told me that willpower is something which is based on mindfulness. So I'm being mindful right now, hence I have unlimited willpower, right? And let's say with concentration or anything else that you believe, like for example education, if you start note taking on this, if you start doing actual journaling, and this isn't just dear diary crap or 5 things I'm grateful for or anything else, like the reason why I nutted is because my phone was on my left side when it should be instead outside of the room, so I do not have to think about it, blah blah blah. That's stupid, right? But instead, when you start looking at the reasons, the benefits you see in pornography, and then you start breaking them down, you will naturally have a lower desire to use it. So why aren't you doing that? Why aren't you doing these types of journaling wherein you question the reason that you see pornography is good in the first place? You never thought of that. Yes, because people on r/Nofap and whatnot told you that this is something that has to be fought forever. This is something that cannot be reasoned with, blah blah blah. And that is simply stupid. You can't reason with it. Your brain is something that's trying to help you, and you can easily take control of it. So why the hell aren't you right now? Why the hell can you not question these beliefs about, let's say, why you think that willpower or lust or any of these self-limiting beliefs which you may have had are true? And why, when you do like 5 minutes of research on them at best, like maximum 5 minutes per thing, you will realize that all of them are false. Last thing is that if you do not mold yourself, someone else will mold you. And this, I've intentionally chose these pronunciations, these way of writing them, because you need to take control of your destiny. All of these things, like your parents or your teachers or authority figures telling you that willpower is limited, etc., that wasn't your fault. You believing it, you not questioning it was, and you continuing in it, continuing to stay in pornography is now. This is all your fault because you have the accurate information, the accurate methods and whatnot to take care of pornography. Now, if you want to do this in a quick manner, if you want to do this in a 100% manner, I have a course on quitting pornography right here, and this is on pre-sale, so it's like just $49. I will be increasing the price later on. I'm currently developing it. So if you join right now, I will talk to you one on one, and I will also ask you what kind of things, what kind of problems do you have specifically which you want to be addressed, and I'll also have like a 30-minute conversation with you if you want on text. If you want like coaching and whatnot, I will also do that, but this just takes more time. Like I'm giving like 6 hours entirely. So if you're interested in that, there's coaching in which I will give you one-on-one time. I will make sure that all of the things are gotten rid of. I will give you journaling prompts and whatnot, so you actually question these things in a right way. You actually ask the right questions and hence get the right answers, and hence get a better understanding of your brain. Now, the reason why I started this isn't to just make a profit, but because, like as I said, 9 years of my life was spent in pornography, and I just feel so sad about that a lot of my potential was wasted on this shit, and I don't think that you need to be the same. I think that you can do way better than me, and I think I can help you get over this thing in a faster method, in a more painless method than r/nofap or even easy peasy or freedom model or any of these other alternative methods could, because they don't address the true reasons as to why you're using pornography. They just say a surface level belief like, oh, you have low willpower, oh, you see some sort of positives, and oh, you have this or that. And when you start taking all of these things, when you start actually saying that, oh, some of these are not true, oh, some of these are very underdeveloped, some of these things are a personal problem of mine wherein I don't see a point in playing with life, I don't see a point in embracing it, then that is a very sad problem. And if you're actually serious about quitting pornography, if you're actually serious about having a desire to live, having a desire to, let's say, retire your family, having a desire to provide value on this earth, then I will say that you should sign up for the coaching. And yeah, you can sign up for the course. It will be very in depth. I will have 5 hours plus of content, and if you sign up right now, I will also be giving you bonus things. So this is your choice. You can sign up, you can not, and that's all. Cheers.